Americans invented the integrated production system where raw material will come in through one door.
Was Ford.
And the final product will come out of the other door.
Is my hair messed up?
It involved huge infrastructure of factories, steel, cement, etc. But America had a shortage of labor, and the labor was expensive, and an abundance of capital. So that system suited the Americans. The Japanese, they saw that the Americans are spending so much on overheads that they decided to take the production structure and pull it apart. And for example, they started with the radio. And they took apart the radio, the circuit separately, the knobs of the radio, the glass case, the antenna, all
reverse
in
engineering
places, in small factories, in like a jhoparpatti, in shanty towns, and they lowered the overheads in a big way. And the final product came to be extraordinarily cheap, and so it was only a matter of time when the Japanese destroyed the radio industry, radio production in Motorola, and all these went under, and television, and most of the things the Japanese did it by this method. Of course, Japanese labor became expensive in the process, and so what happened is the Chinese came in, and people talk about the Chinese miracle, but all that the Chinese miracle is importing semi-processed goods from East Asia, adding value to it, and then exporting it to the West. Previously, the East Asian countries used to directly export to Europe and America. But as labor became expensive, the price started going up. So to avoid this rise in price, they went to China, where labor was very cheap. And there all they did was get the Chinese to add value to the product and export it at a cheap price. So the Chinese had a deficit of trade with East Asia and a surplus, huge surplus of trade with the Western countries, and that's how the Chinese economy grew. For example, Lenovo computer, it is not really made in China. The basic components and structure is made in Taiwan. All the Chinese do is put the glass and its cover and the keypad, and then put a chap on it, made in China. The only company which refused to allow the Chinese to put the chap of made in China was Apple. Apple is also 90% produced in value added is in China. But the Apple company insisted that they will not allow it to write made in China. But all these made in China are not made in China. We produce more domestically in India than the Chinese do. But the Chinese have been clever. They get these semi-processed goods and add value and send it to Europe, and in the process they cut their foreign exchange earnings have gone to $1 trillion, whereas we are still in the region of $350 billion. Why can't India do the same thing? Because if you ask the East Asians, they say, well, we'd like to do it through India. It's a democratic country. We're not afraid of the intellectual property rights questions, etc. But your infrastructure is so third-rate that if I come to your port, it will take me 1 week to turn the ship around, whereas in China it will take me just 24 hours. In Singapore it will be taking few hours. And the roads are full of potholes, then there is octroi, and then in China you have to pay only bribe to the top man, and then everything follows. Here you have to pay right from top all the way down. You get a clearance in the center, you can't get a clearance in the state. Electricity is with the state, land acquisition is with the state. So this mess is the reason. The day you put your act together, we will come through India. Why? We don't want to go through China. We never know when we'll get arrested or when we'll be accused of spying. We are more comfortable in India, but because it's not possible to do business. Why didn't India adopt this Japanese technology and then the Chinese method? Because in 1947, Jawaharlal Nehru adopted the Soviet economic model. I was totally unsuited for India because the Soviet economic model was based on the principle that you extract resources from agriculture and finance the industrialization program. And there was no room for exports and imports and all that. India, in 1947, the British had destroyed our agriculture. Why they destroyed it? Because in 1857, the peasantry supported the rebellion, or the war, what is called by Savarkar as the first war of independence. So they set up this organization of zamindars. They were all criminals. They told them, collect as much as you like, but give us a fixed amount every year for running the administration of India. So by 1947, our agriculture was bone dry. And it was that time we should have focused on agriculture. Given priority, I'm not saying don't think of industrialization and develop agriculture. But the fascination with the Soviet economic model led us to a situation where our growth rate would grow more than 3 to 3.5% per year. But the communists were so ashamed of this growth rate, they called it the Hindu rate of growth. As if the Hindus were responsible for that growth rate. Anyway, but propaganda kept it alive. There is no inflation in Soviet Union, there is no poverty in Soviet Union, there is no unemployment in Soviet Union. Many communists used to tell me that. Later on, I had the pleasure of telling them, now there is a fourth item also, there is no Soviet Union. Broken up into 16 countries. So, the economic reform, which really the blueprints were drawn up when Chandrasekhar was Prime Minister, and he had assigned me this work because we were in a terrible mess in 1990. And I convinced him, although Mr. Chandrasekhar was a socialist, but he was a very practical person. And he said, Karo kuch, and we began the process. And I had, of course, the assistance of my Commerce Secretary, who was Montek Singh Ahluwalia. And we searched for an economist who will do our bidding and do the drafting. I searched and came to the conclusion the best person would be Manmohan Singh. And I got him from Geneva to come back. Manmohan Singh is very good when you give him a direction. So, in no time we grew from a low rate of growth to 8%. And same thing today, I say, the ideas that Professor Vaidyanathan, and the advantage of Vaidyanathan is he's a prominent intellectual, economist, finance expert, and yet he's not a communist. So, to find an intellectual who is not a communist is nowadays very difficult. So we have this rare commodity for Professor Vaidyanathan, the ideas is put in. I would say...
Okay, that was a snippet clip, it's a clip of the great and honorable Swamy, and a couple things that he said there, which is really fascinating. He talked about the British and how the British kind of set up tax collectors and said, collect as much as you want, we just want a fixed amount, right? Which that is so reminiscent of biblically of what the Romans did to the Jews. And the tax collectors were hated, like absolutely hated, because they didn't just take the tax that was required for Rome. They got rich and just took everything they could from you and just drained you dry. So that's very interesting. I did not know that about India. Now, I'm of British descent. My family came over on the Mayflower. Like, that's how British I am. They were part of the colonists that hit Virginia, and then they migrated into Virginia, West Virginia, Ohio, Kentucky, Indiana, and voila, here I am. Bowling Green is named after my family. You can go to Bowling Mountain, where there's bowlings everywhere, which is kind of weird because bowling is not a common name in Illinois or Arizona, but here they are. And if you come across a bowling, we're probably all related. And my point is this: the more I kind of learn about British occupation, the more I hate them. India and America are cousins. We are related, right? We are truly related. I think America is just ahead of you on the how do we deal with Great Britain, because it was America kind of sanctioning Great Britain after World War I and II that kind of just put it under, kind of just destroyed the UK, the Crown, their empire, and we both fought for our freedom, bloody wars. And one of the things I've been reading about is the forgotten Holocaust of India, and what Churchill did to the Indians. Like, this bastard dude he to me is just as equal as Hitler, And when you see Great Britain and Germany going at it, in hindsight, you're like, I hope they both lose. I hope they just kill each other completely. And that's probably shouldn't say that. Oops, video just got flagged. But it's just really something. Churchill was a Druid. What's a Druid? A male witch. Like, I don't know. It's craziness. The Swamy, outstanding video. Very informative. Like, breaking down economics in the American system. And he's absolutely right. With that system of manufacturing, we built a middle class, but it got expensive. Now all of a sudden you're paying somebody, like in America, good manufacturing job is, guys can make $55, $60 an hour, right? Well, guess how much you got to charge for your product now when you're paying somebody that? And it's not just one dude, like it's a bunch of dudes. So anyways, good job, Swamy. You got it, bro. I'm with you.